The German East Asia Squadron was an Imperial German Navy cruiser squadron which operated mainly in the Pacific Ocean between the mid-1890s and 1914. It was Germany's only major blue water or overseas naval formation independent of home ports in Germany. Historical background: the Treaty of Peking of September 1861 between the Kingdom of Prussia and China allowed Prussian warships to operate in Chinese waters. As the Far East grew in economic and political importance to the recently united Germany, in 1881 a flying squadron was formed for the area under the command of a flag officer. Since African colonies were then seen as of greater value, an African cruiser squadron was established in 1885 with permanent status, and shortly thereafter the Imperial German Navy reduced the East Asia presence to 2 small gunboats. The African cruiser squadron itself returned to Germany for deactivation at Kiel in 1893. Operations in China. With the outbreak of the First Sino-Japanese War in 1894, Germany revived her interest in China, with full support from Kaiser Wilhelm II. The German Admiralty created a Far East cruiser division with the modern light cruiser SMS Irene and 3 aging small ships under the command of Rear Admiral Paul Hoffmann. His orders directed him to protect German interests and to examine possible sites for a German base in China. Hoffmann found his ships lacking for the job and petitioned the Admiralty for replacements for the 3 aging ships. His request was granted and the armored frigate SMS Kaiser, the light cruiser SMS Prince Wilhelm and the small cruiser SMS Cormoran were sent, but without a base. Hoffmann depended on the British at Hong Kong, the Chinese at Shanghai and the Japanese at Nagasaki for technical and logistical support of his ships. Wilhelm II, his Chancellor, Foreign Minister and the Naval Secretary all saw the need for a base in the Far East. The German ambassador to China complained, "Our ships cannot swim about here forever like homeless waifs." Rear Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz replaced Hoffmann in June 1896 with orders to find a site for a base and to evaluate 4 potential locales on the Chinese coast. Although Tirpitz favored the bay at Girochow, others in the government advocated 4 other sites. Even Tirpitz wavered on his commitment in his final report. Tirpitz was recalled by Wilhelm II, and after he returned to Berlin he lost interest in East Asia. He was now developing a battle fleet. Rear Admiral Otto von Diedrichs succeeded Tirpitz as commander of the cruiser division. Although the Navy had not yet committed to a specific site for a base due to high-level indecision, Diedrichs asserted Girochow alone as the goal of my efforts. Base at Tsingtao. German offers to buy the site were refused, but the murder of 2 German missionaries on the 1st of November 1897 provided the casus for Rear Admiral Otto von Diedrichs to land troops on the 14th of November, 1897. The Imperial Navy had a rather tenuous hold on Girochow until the region was reinforced by the arrival of the protected cruiser SMS Kaiser in Augusta, and in January 1898 the Marines of the Sea Battalion disembarked to form the garrison for Tsingtao. With the convention at Peking on 6 March 1898, the German ambassador and Chinese viceroy signed a 99-year lease for Girochow, and colonization of the territory began in earnest. A naval base with a supporting, neighboring infrastructure was then built at the impoverished fishing village of Tsingtao to create the Ostasiatische Station of the Imperial Navy. Von Diedrichs was recalled to Berlin in 1899 to serve as chief of the Admiralty staff. He was succeeded at Tsingtao by Rear Admiral Prince Heinrich of Prussia. A series of other commanders of the East Asia Cruiser Squadron followed. Rear Admirals Gert von Prittwitz, Felix von Benjamin, Alfred Bersing, Karl Koeppe, Friedrich von Ingenol, Erich Gulock, Gunther von Krosigk, and the fleet's last commanding officer Count Maximilian von Spee. In these years a broad replacement and upgrade program provided for the assignment of modern ships to Tsingtao. Boxer Rebellion. From February 1900 until 1902, Admiral Felix von Benjamin commanded the East Asia Squadron from his flagships SMS Erin and then SMS Hertha. When Benjamin took command of the East Asia Squadron, he found it unprepared for the challenges presented by the brewing Boxer Rebellion. He actually had to borrow charts from the Russians and maps from the British in order to operate in the Yellow Sea. Nevertheless, he forcefully advanced the idea of taking the Taku forts, and the ships under his command were able to make a noteworthy contribution in the Battle of Taku Forts. On the 8th of June 1900 he brought the large cruisers SMS Hansa, SMS Hertha and the small cruisers SMS Geffen and SMS Irene before the Taku fort to land detachments of Marines for the protection of their citizens in Shenzhen. Lieutenant Otto Weniger, the commander of SMS Geffen, then became commander of a landing corps of 500 Marines, which took part in the failed Seymour relief expedition for the relief of the Peking delegations later in June. World War I. In 1914, the East Asia Squadron numbered a total of 6 major warships under the command of Vice Admiral Maximilian Reichsgraf von Spee. Scharnhorst-class cruiser SMS Scharnhorst, SMS Gneisenau. Dresden-class cruiser SMS Dresden, SMS Emden. Bremen-class cruiser SMS Leipzig. Königsberg-class cruiser SMS Nuremberg. At the outbreak of World War I in August 1914, von Spee found himself both outnumbered and outgunned by Allied navies in the region. He was especially wary of the Imperial Japanese Navy and the Royal Australian Navy. In fact, he described the latter's flagship, the battlecruiser HMAS Australia, as being superior to his entire force by itself. The initial successes by Emden led to von Spee allowing her captain, von Müller, to take his ship on a lone commerce raiding campaign in the Indian Ocean, while the remainder of the squadron would head towards the eastern Pacific and the South American coast, where there were neutral countries with pro-German sympathies where von Spee could potentially obtain supplies. Raids by Emden disrupted trade throughout the Indian Ocean, intercepting 29 ships and sinking those belonging to Britain or its allies. At the Battle of Penang she sank the Russian-protected cruiser Jemchug and the French destroyer Mousquet, catching the Russian ship by surprise while in harbor. At Madras she destroyed oil storage facilities through shelling. The ship finally met its end on 9 November 1914 after a prolonged struggle with HMAS Sydney at the Battle of Cocos. Sailing the Pacific at the outbreak of World War I, nearly all the ships of the East Asia Station were dispersed at various island colonies on routine missions. The armored cruisers Scharnhorst and Gneisenau were at anchor at Ponape in the Carolines. The fleet then rendezvoused at Pagan Island in the Northern Marianas, the commanders planning the logistics of the long journey to Germany. With the ship sculling, the light cruiser Nuremberg was dispatched to Honolulu in the United States territory of Hawaii to gather war news, since all German undersea cables through British-controlled areas were cut. Admiral von Spee headed for German Samoa with Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, then east, conducting the bombardment of Papeete in French Polynesia. The East Asia Squadron coaled at Easter Island from colliers that had been on station throughout the Pacific. The light cruiser SMS Gaia, which had failed to rendezvous at Pagan, tried to join Spee's squadron until forced to intern itself at Hawaii on 17 October 1914 due to mechanical breakdowns. realizing that Allied activity in the Pacific had increased to such a level that he was vastly outnumbered and losing the element of surprise, Admiral von Spee decided to move his fleet around Cape Horn into the Atlantic and force his way north in an effort to reach Germany. The main body of the squadron engaged the British West Indies Squadron on 1 November 1914 at the Battle of Coronel, sinking 2 British cruisers, HMS Good Hope and HMS Monmouth. It was while attempting to return home via the Atlantic that most of the squadron was destroyed on 8 December 1914 in the Battle of the Falkland Islands by a superior British force of battle cruisers and cruisers. SMS Dresden and a few auxiliary vessels escaped destruction and fled back to the Pacific, where the auxiliaries were interned at Chilean ports, and Dresden was scuttled at the Battle of Mar Sierra. The 4 small gunboats Silties, Jaguar, Tiger, Lux and the torpedo boat S-90 of the East Asia Squadron that had been left at Tsingtao were scuttled by the crews just prior to the capture of the base by Japan in November 1914. During the siege of Tsingtao, 4 small river gunboats and some 24 merchantmen and small vessels evaded Allied capture in inland waters of China until 1917, when China seized most of them save for 2 river gunboats, which were destroyed by the crews.